Do-hyuk was trapped, not physically, not exactly. It was a mental prison, a labyrinth of his own thoughts and fears. He was a prisoner of his own mind, of the trials he had endured. The memories of past battles haunted him, each one a ghost that refused to be laid to rest. Every muscle ached, a testament to the horrors he'd faced. His body bore the scars of countless encounters, each one a story of survival. He'd lost count of the days, the hours blurring together in a haze of pain and exhaustion. Time had become meaningless, a relentless tide that eroded his spirit. He was a participant in a deadly game, forced to fight for survival. Each battle was a test of his will, a challenge to his very existence. Each day brought new challenges, each more brutal than the last. The trials were designed to break him, to strip away his humanity and leave only a shell. The dungeon's cold, damp air clung to him like a shroud. It seeped into his bones, a constant reminder of his captivity.
But I refuse to give in. No matter how dire the situation, I will not surrender. Something inside me, a spark of defiance, refuses to be extinguished. It is a flame that burns brighter with each challenge, a beacon of hope in the darkness. I cling to the memory of my loved ones, their faces a beacon in the darkness. This is my test. Can I survive? Can I break free? Their love gives me strength. Their hope fuels my resolve. I will endure. I will overcome. For them and for myself.
He was no longer the same man who had entered this hellish place. The trials had forged him anew, burning away weakness, tempering his spirit in the fires of adversity. He looked at his hands, calloused and scarred. Hands that had once only typed on a keyboard were now weapons, calloused and strong.
I have killed to survive. I have taken lives, something I never imagined possible. The memory of my first kill still haunts me, the shock, the nausea. But with each subsequent encounter, something within me has hardened. I have become a survivor.
A shadow fell across the dungeon floor, stretching ominously as if to consume all hope. Do-hyuk looked up, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest, each beat echoing his fear. Jo Chang-hun, the architect of his suffering, stood before him, a figure of pure malevolence. A cruel smile played on the man's lips, his eyes gleaming with a perverse amusement, as if he relished every moment of Do-hyuk's torment.
"You've done well to survive this long," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Most would have broken by now," he continued, his words a twisted form of praise.
Do-hyuk said nothing, his silence a shield against the man's taunts. He met the man's gaze with a steady stare, refusing to show fear, his resolve hardening with each passing second. He could smell the man's arrogance, his belief that he held all the cards, that he was invincible.
But I have learned, Do-hyuk thought, his mind racing. Fear is a weakness, and I have shed my weakness in this place of despair. I have become stronger, forged in the fires of my suffering. Why? Why put us through this? What could possibly be the reason for such cruelty?
Do-hyuk finally rasped, his voice hoarse from disuse, his throat dry and aching from the lack of water.
"To test the limits of human endurance. To see how far a person can be pushed before they break. To see what breaks a man, what makes him crumble into despair."
And what have you learned from all this? What has this cruel experiment taught you?
Jo Chang-hun chuckled, a chilling sound that echoed in the vast emptiness of the dungeon, sending shivers down Do-hyuk's spine.
"That some men are harder to break than others, that resilience can be found in the most unexpected places."
Do-hyuk knew what he meant. He had endured more than he thought possible. Jo Chang-hun saw something in him, something that both fascinated and repulsed him. A strength that defied logic, a resilience, a will to survive that defied explanation. It was a testament to the human spirit. But this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice. It was about righting the wrongs that had been done. It was about making Jo Chang-hun pay for the suffering he had inflicted. It was about ensuring that such cruelty would never happen again. The fight was brutal, a whirlwind of fists and feet. Do-hyuk fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, every blow fueled by rage and desperation. He had nothing left to lose. Jo Chang-hun, despite his outward confidence, was taken aback by Do-hyuk's ferocity. He had underestimated his opponent, mistaking endurance for weakness. Do-hyuk used his environment to his advantage, his movements fluid and unpredictable. He had learned to fight dirty, to exploit every weakness, every opening. This was a fight for his life, and he would not go down without a fight.
Narrator. The tide began to turn. Do-hyuk landed a blow, then another. Jo Chang-hun staggered, his smug smile replaced by a look of surprise, then fear. He had miscalculated. He had created a monster. With a final desperate lunge, Do-hyuk disarmed his opponent. He stood over the fallen man, his chest heaving, his body screaming in protest. His knuckles were bloody, his clothes torn, but he was alive. He had won.
Looking down at the man who had tormented him, Do-hyuk felt no joy, no sense of triumph, only a profound emptiness. He had survived the ordeal, but at what cost? The man standing over Jo Chang-hun was not the same man who had entered the dungeon. He was scarred, both physically and emotionally. He had stared into the abyss, and the abyss had stared back. As he walked away from the broken figure on the ground, Do-hyuk knew that the real battle had just begun. The fight to reclaim his humanity, to find peace in the aftermath of unimaginable horror, would be his greatest challenge yet. He was a survivor, but could he learn to live again?